We must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Friday Grievance edition. Dominic, you've been getting on my nerves already, man.
Happy Friday, Crudy, Evan on the board, our fair audience. We have finally made it. Yeah, I was watching a little World Cup with some soccer buddies of mine earlier today, and you know how those soccer folks are. They're going nuts right now. Go Argentina.
I heard Brazil got eliminated. I hear that.
Big upset, yes.
I don't care. I don't care. I got to tell you, soccer, I don't care. I'm sorry.
You know, it's like a lot of things. I'm not really into it. Never played the sport myself, and if I don't, hey, I'm an athlete, man. I'll take you on some soccer anytime, Crudy. If I don't have like a vested interest, last World Cup, my wife produced a big party for like a month long here in Milwaukee for World Cup. It was amazing. We had a blast. So I was watching some World Cup, and if I, hanging out with a couple of friends who are like soccer players, played in college, they're really into it. So they help explain the game a little bit.
Dominic, I looked out the window this morning, and here in Madison, it's about 5 inches of slushy snow. Although I cleaned off the wife's car today, told her it was 9. But anyways.
We're still talking about cleaning off the car?
Yes, okay. Of course. Looked like football weather. To me, it looked like football weather.
Football.
We should mention, by the way, we got some fine guests on this big program, Dom.
Well,
U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin joining us at 4:30, so you better stick around for her. And the happy hour today with GOP strategist, my buddy, skeptical, apparently. What a jerk.
I don't know the guy.
At 5:05.
Well, we're going to meet on the air. It'll be fun.
I can't believe you don't know Bill McCoshen. And we're going to talk about Benedict Sinema at some point, but let me tell you this little football story I heard on Whitey Righty Talk Radio, a national show, doing a little football analogy. Some Wisconsinite, some cheesehead sends in this analogy. Donald Trump, and you Wisconsinites, you'll know what I mean. Donald Trump, as a politician, was the Brett Favre of politicians. Now, he excited the base, obviously, threw lots of touchdown passes. Unexpected could happen at any moment when Brett Favre was the quarterback or Donald Trump was the president. But then there were also some bad things that happened, right? Favre tended to try to rifle him into triple coverage on occasion. I believe he's got some of like the all-time interception records for the NFL as well.
Right.
So Brett Favre could break your heart, much like Donald Trump has done in a series of elective cycles. But here was where the analogy, anyways, here's what he said. Favre got replaced by a superior player, a better player, one might say, a generational player in Aaron Rodgers. Donald Trump will be replaced with the generational politician that is Ron DeSantis.
Oh, God.
And I heard this analogy, and I'm waiting for Jordan Love. You know what? Because it's about time. It may be time. Sorry to say this, Packer fans. It might be time to turn the page towards Jordan Love. And I know we beat the Bears. He still owns the Bears. But everybody else, he's looking a little long in the tooth and a little thread-worn this year. Talking about A-Rod. So anyways, who's Jordan Love in that analogy? The kid out of Iowa? What was his name? D's Nuts?
Well, it's got to be the third up-and-comer Republican behind DeSantis? I mean, who's that going to be?
Scott Walker?
No.
The second coming of the Wankinator.
Come on, Lynn Dickey has long been gone.
Lynn Dickey has long been gone. Anyway, so that's my bad analogy for the day, Dom.
Thank you. I'm sure it won't be the only one.
Probably not. We'll take your phone calls. 844-967-2789. On Fridays, you call in, you air the grievances. And since we have fine guests today, that will not be your problem. U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin coming at 4:30 Central. You better call now. 844-967-2789. But Dom, let's talk about Benedict Sinema showing her true colors, right? We got some sound of this too. I don't know if I want to play this sound. Sinema leaving the Democratic Party and registering as an independent. And you asked me, Dom, what's that even matter? What's that mean?
What's that mean?
Well, I looked to the reporting of CNN. Arizona's Senator Kyrsten Sinema is leaving the Democratic Party. And I say, bah, Felicia. And registering as a political independent, she told CNN's Jake Tapper in an exclusive TV interview.
Ooh, exclusive. She loves exclusive.
The exclusive part was the viewership if she went to Jake Tapper on CNN. I'm just saying, they're a little off since 2020. Here's her quote. I've registered as an Arizona independent. I know some people might be a little bit surprised by this, but actually, I was not surprised. But anyways, I think it makes a lot of sense, Sinema said in a Thursday interview. Maybe we should just play the sound. But my thought was party of one. This is the most selfish, self-serving act. I can't remember the last time we saw an act that this was this self-serving. I mean, it's not surprising. She's been, sticking it to Joe Biden and the Democratic agenda he got elected under because, people elected Joe Biden because he said, here's what we'll do. We'll have the Senate and we'll have the House. And between her and Joe Manchin, they pretty much stuck it across the board. Her pet issue, Dom, keeping corporate taxes low for rich people.
Well, that helps the donors, right? I mean, but listen, and I appreciate what you're saying, and perhaps some politicians are more self-serving than others, but they're politicians, man. I'm not surprised at all.
Tom, what have you told me many times through the year? Nobody better represents the needs of Dominic than Dominic, something like that.
F&A, baby. That's the truth.
Better represents the needs of Kyrsten Sinema than Kyrsten Sinema. But the constituents of Arizona, I think they're a lot less convinced on. Now, the question becomes, what happens to the math? So Sinema's move away from the Democratic Party is unlikely to change the power balance in the next Senate.
Unlikely, but good. Democrats
will have a narrow 51-49 majority that includes two independents, my boy Bernie Sanders and Dom's buddy Angus King, the stake man of Maine. While Sanders and King formerly caucused with the Democrats, Sinema declined to explicitly say that she would do the same. She did note, however, she expects to keep her committee assignments, a signal that she doesn't plan to upend the Senate composition since Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer controls committee rosters for Democrats. So in other words, if she crossed the aisle, if she was truly Benedict Sinema, if she went and joined Mitch McConnell, that would actually only cast the Senate at 50-50. That would put all the power back in the vice president's hands. And you could bet your sweet ass she'd lose that committee assignment. She would be dethroned. She'd be the Marjorie Taylor Greene of the Senate. So anyways, Dom, let's play some sound. You hate to not hear it from the horse's mouth or the horse's ass, as the case may be. Let's play the senator, the esteemed, from Arizona Cut 10, Sinema, showing her true colors.
Registering as an independent and showing up to work with the title of independent is a reflection of who I've always been. And it's a reflection of who Arizona is.
She's all mavericky, Dom.
Oh, man. Okay.
She's the same crazy-ass person she's always been, though. Cut 11.
I'm going to be the same person I've always been. That's who I am. I'm going to show up to work. I'm going to do my best for Arizona.
Who's playing the...
I'm not clear what the source is. Is this a promo, her video, or is this part of the interview? I'm not exactly clear.
I think this is self-promotion.
This is
all self-promotion. Cut 12, the senator from Arizona.
The realistic outcome for this is that I'll retain my committees and I'll continue to be an independent voice for Arizona. I'm going to show up to work every day as an independent, proud of the work I do for Arizona, and I'm going to continue working with my colleagues of both political parties and those who don't have a party.
So how does that change anything then, other than you get to produce a nice little piece and you go on Jake Tapper and we get to talk about you for our grievances today on Fridays? What's the point? I expect to keep my committee assignments. Oh, you do you? Isn't it very expecting of you?
It's a exercise in self-aggrandizement, Tom. Of course.
I have no idea what that's about.
Of course you. You're good at that. You are the Kirsten Sinema
Come on.
of Devil's Advocates panelist.
I am an independent. Well, let's play a couple more, Evan, while before we run out of time. Let's hear what the senator had to say. I think we're on cut 13.
I don't think there's going to be any real change for me or the way that I operate, and I don't think there's going to be a change for Arizonans. They can expect me to keep doing exactly what I've always done.
Yeah, that's
great.
Great.
Yeah, great. Big announcement that nothing's going to change. Excellent. Hey, everyone, I got breaking news. The sun will set tonight and come up tomorrow. Let's hear what else the self-aggrandizing Kirsten Sinema had to say. Cut 14.
Folks were aware of this decision before I made my announcement this morning, but I'm not going to talk about the conversations I had with individuals.
A natural progression. Cut 15, please.
Today's announcement is just a natural extension of the work that I've been doing on behalf of Arizona for the last number of years in the United States Senate.
And this is her decision. Cut 16, please.
Other people's behavior or thoughts or decisions have had no impact on my decision. This is a reflection of the values that I hold and that I go to work with every day.
And she picked her own march-up music, kind of, didn't she?
Sounded like it.
True
colors.
Read them now. You know, when someone tells you who they are, believe them, right? Self-aggrandizing, self-important, self-centered, selfish Kirsten Sinema. Trying to get out in front of the Democrats because she might lose power. Come back with us. Friday Grievances, she's mine. Yours could be next. 844-967-2789.
Diabolical sabotage.
Bye, Felicia.
Beautiful. You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Bill Press, thanks for sticking around, man.
The idea that idiot, Ron Johnson, the guy who says can't call it an armed riot because they didn't have any arms. Read or listen to what Michael Fanone says about Ron Johnson and the fact that there were no arms. It was an armed riot. And Ron Johnson, he's a phony who doesn't deliver, who lies, who certainly does not represent Wisconsin. I hope that people realize there's no Senate seat more important in this country.
For podcasts of shows, special events, and more, visit civicmedia.us.
I'm 54, so it's too late to start saving for retirement, right?
Not right. Starting to save even in your 50s can really make a difference. At aceyourretirement.org, in just 3 minutes, you'll get a free personalized retirement plan. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Fear you may be missing out? We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. Enjoy listening live or catch up by finding the podcast at civicmedia.us or wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Lows level off around 33 tonight. Under overcast skies, winds out of the east, 8 to 15 miles an hour. Chance for isolated rain showers tomorrow. Daytime highs approaching 37. Cloudy skies. Cloudy skies expected again tomorrow night. Lows dip down to about 31. Upper 30s Sunday and Monday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 34 degrees.
When they go low, we get high. The Devil's Advocates.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open for your grievances right now. Call at 844-967-2789. Senator Tammy Baldwin going to join us at the bottom of the hour.
And Dominic, I'm here in sloppy, snowy Madison, Wisconsin. The scene of the soiree this weekend going to be the Civic Media Party. Looking forward to bringing together a cast of dozens. We're going to have a good time. We're going to the comedy club. We're going to eat some good victuals and party our asses off. So looking forward to that, everyone. Looking forward to you being a part of this program. You better hurry up and dial, though. 844-967-2789. Dom, Supreme Court candidate Jennifer Doro. Remember the story the other day? Rutrow Doro.
Oh, Wisconsin Supreme Court candidate. Yes. How could we forget?
Well, the other ones, they get the lifetime appointments. They don't actually run for the job, or Merrick Garland might have it. But Wisconsin Supreme Court candidate Jennifer Doro pushes back on criticism of sentence for man later accused of stabbing 2 people. Sent him home to stab again, Dom. The campaign for Supreme Court candidate Jennifer Doro, a Waukesha County judge, conservative, just so we're clear, is dismissing criticism of the sentence she gave last month to a man who prosecutors said went on to stab his wife's parents. Ooh, that's going to be a harsh Thanksgiving. Doro, on November 30th, sentenced Michael Y. Liu, 36 of Oak Creek, to 4 months in the Waukesha County Jail Huber work release facility after he pled guilty to 3 misdemeanors: battery and criminal damage to property, both as domestic abuse and contact after a domestic abuse arrest. He was convicted of punching his wife in the shoulder and smashing his children's iPad. Doro gave him 2 days until 6 p.m. on December 2nd to report to work release. Prosecutors said that instead, Liu traveled on December 1st to Crete, Illinois, a suburb about 35 miles south of Chicago, and stabbed a man and a woman in their 60s and fired a gun at their house. He's now being held in an Illinois jail on 16 counts, including 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder. The Wisconsin Democratic Party criticized Doro, a conservative, saying she displayed #poor judgment. And that put a victim of domestic violence and their family in the indirect danger. And Dom, Doro's campaign, they responded in a statement that gave Liu, she said, she gave Liu double the sentence prosecutors requested, 4 months instead of 2, and that the 2 days she gave him to report to the Huber facility were less, I tell you, than typically given.
Crudy, the campaign also noted that Liu had no prior criminal record, that he had entered a treatment program voluntarily in August after he was charged. A letter from the counselor at the program, which is for men who have been abusive in a relationship, noted Liu demonstrated a high level of commitment to the treatment process and the prognosis is good. Liu also received a letter of support from his employer, where he worked full-time as a director of engineering, supervised 15 people, according to court documents. The campaign also noted that no one at sentencing hearing requested that Liu be taken into custody immediately. In deciding to sentence Liu to 4 months in jail instead of 2, Doro said she wanted to hold him accountable, according to a transcript of the plea and the sentencing hearing. Quote, "I want to send a very strong message to you. This behavior is not something society condones," she said. "And despite your lack of prior record, the violence, in fact, the most agreeing factor in the violence in front of your children demands swift and stiff response by this court." Of course, she gained the judge widespread recognition for presiding over the trial of Darrell Brooks, now convicted in the Waukesha Christmas parade attack. And of course, she jumped into the race. We talked about it, some of the details in the past, and I so I would wonder from my conservative friends, hell, I mean, even for our Dems, I mean, certainly there's guidelines, right? And she went beyond the guidelines, and things still went south. So should she be criticized for not putting him in jail immediately if she was concerned about this behavior? Well, sure. I mean, those things are always there. That's why these are judgment calls. And many times things will be fine, and sometimes they won't be. But that's why you make those judgment calls. And this judgment call based on the facts that we know them, was wrong. While she gave him more time than she had to, she could have told him to go to jail right away. She could have. She didn't.
Because that's not what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get convicted and you get a couple of weeks, couple of days, get your stuff together.
Get your affairs in order, Michael.
Yes, before you head off to jail. Also, the fact that the ultimate destination for this convicted domestic abuser was a Huber facility. That's not a secure detention facility. That means that's day camp. 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, this guy's eligible for work release to get out and apparently go supervise 15 other engineers in the field. I mean, he had good work prospects. Hell, he's got better work prospects than some in radio do.
I don't know about that. But if the criticism is, hey, no matter what you did, here was the result, you could have done something different. If that's the criticism that Republicans seemingly would take and put on all sorts of other people who aren't Republicans, and certainly her conservative adversaries in this Wisconsin Supreme Court race are going to bring this up. But things happen.
Will tar and feather her with this incident. And I don't think, honestly, I'll be honest, I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair in the case of Mandela Barnes. I don't, what? Because he's the lieutenant governor, somehow he's responsible for the actions.
No, of course not.
Darrell Brooks. But that's the way it was cast during the political cycle. But I also don't think it's fair to hold the judge accountable for the actions of the perpetrator. A, she didn't stick the knife in his hand. B, this guy was taking all the steps, right? He was in the first offenders program, doing the domestic violence classes. And I hate when a singular case, not actually perpetrated. It's different if the judge is being held up for corruption. I mean, if it's Gableman, let's talk about his corruption. But in this case, no, I don't think it's fair to tar and feather her, but doesn't mean conservative Dan Kelly won't. We got to find guests. She's coming next. She is U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin, the returning champion. Stick around. It's the Friday edition of the Devil's Advocates.
Terrible idea. Why did you let us do that? It's so bad.
Here we are, the young contender, scrappy, controversial, has an impressive reach. Devil Radio 92.7.
You wanted information as election results rolled in, and the Civic Media network of radio stations delivered it live.
I was so impressed with your coverage, and I listened to you guys, and I saw the coverage. It was amazing.
Hi.
Hello, Miss Baldwin. How are you?
Oh, it is snowing there.
Oh my goodness, it's amazing too. It came down, in the. I went to bed too late last night, getting ready, and woke up to this madness. Yeah, it's awfully slushy up there.
Yes, a little snow must come. It's winter.
You know what? That's true too. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're back.
I'm delighted to.
3 minutes here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It always is, isn't it?
It is.
All right, thank you.
Located at 520 State Street in Madison. Order online today at knuckleheads.shop. With free shipping on all orders over $50, you'll be sure to find exactly what you like.
Coronavirus update. I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Stocks finished lower. The Dow down 305 points. China is struggling with virus infections after restrictions were eased.
Social media user.
The U.S. is hoping to also win freedom for Paul Whelan, jailed since December 2018 on espionage charges. A former Minneapolis police officer who kneeled on George Floyd's back as another officer kneeled on his neck has been sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. J. Alexander King pleaded guilty to aiding and abetting second-degree manslaughter. He's already serving a federal sentence for violating Floyd's civil rights. On Wall Street, stocks finished the week with more losses. The U.S. government reported prices at the wholesale level were up 7.4% in November over a year ago. Dramatic quarterfinal finishes at the World Cup. Both matches went through extra time to penalty kicks. There, Croatia over Brazil 4-2, and Argentina defeated Netherlands 4-3. I'm Ben Thomas.
First, we decide where we want to go. Then we need to know the best way to get there. Hi, my name's Adam Barada. I'm the owner of Advantage Gold. We're the highest rated precious metals firm in the country. We teach people how to own physical gold and silver. Now, we've won the Best of TrustLink Award 4 years in a row because we educate our clients on how to buy gold and silver the right way. We don't pay celebrity spokespeople millions of dollars. We'd rather pass that value on to you. Call 800-900-8000 and speak with one of our experts. We'll send you a free gold kit along with my latest #1 national best-selling book, The Great Devaluation. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000. Get the best information, the best process, the best service, the best value. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor. Consult with
For Civic Media, I'm Jane Matney with your headlines. The number of flu cases in Wisconsin and across the country are spiking. State data shows the number of influenza-like infections took off more than a month earlier than the previous 4 years and has already reached or surpassed peak activity level of 3 of those years. On Monday, the CDC's director, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, announced this year's vaccine is a very good match for the flu strains currently in circulation. The Wisconsin Department of Health Services data says less than 1 in 3 Wisconsinites had gotten a flu shot as of Thursday. An updated COVID booster shot, which protects against the original strain and the more contagious Omicron variant, is still available to people regardless of insurance. As of Wednesday, 37.7% of Wisconsinites had gotten that additional booster. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM, WTTN, 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates. So relevant, they have 1 foot in tomorrow.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Friday edition. It gets better right now. We welcome back a fine guest, the U.S. Senator from the great state of Wisconsin, my senator. She is Tammy Baldwin. Tammy, welcome back.
It's great to join you again.
Thank you, Tammy.
Holiday Senator. Before we jump into the fun stuff, because this is something of a victory lap as I perceive it, but gotta bring up the day's headlines. We do our Friday grievances. Bear with me, Senator. I was still celebrating the Warnock victory in Georgia and the 51-49 math that cast and the committee assignments that transfers through to the Democratic Party. And I see your colleague Sinema today has effectively declared herself a party of one. Tammy, practically, what does that mean to the Democratic majority in the Senate?
You know, I doubt it will end up having a lot of practical effect at all. We all knew that Sinema was a pretty independent type anyhow, and we have other independents, Angus King of Maine and Bernie Sanders of Vermont, who are declared independents, but caucus with the Democrats. That's going to remain the case. And so I think her party change kind of reflects who she is. She was actually one of the senators that I worked most closely with in passing getting the bipartisan majority we needed to pass the Respect for Marriage Act recently. And she's very effective and helpful. And I expect to continue working with her on many issues to come.
Senator, we certainly want to talk about the Respect for Marriage Act. That's the victory celebration as I see it. The bill apparently will be signed into law. Dominic informed me President Biden expected to sign it on Tuesday. Tammy, will you be at the White House for that ceremony? And this, to my perception, Senator, might be the most important legislation you've shepherded through in your career, but you tell me about it. It's your turn to gloat.
Well, I plan on being at the signing ceremony. It should be, it should be wonderful. And I have to tell you that it was a hard fought process to get the Respect for Marriage Act passed in both houses. But what has been most touching to me is all the times that somebody's come up to me either during this debate or after it passed the Senate to say, this really matters to me and my family, and thank you for doing it. And I've had so many people tell me that they feel like this is one of the most relevant things that Congress have ever done that impacts their lives. And I am very moved by that. In some ways, the Respect for Marriage Act, it's sad that we even had to be bringing it up. The reason it was brought up was because this past summer, the Supreme Court decided that that Roe versus Wade should be overturned, that it was wrongly decided when it was decided nearly 50 years ago. And in an instant, we saw half of America become second-class citizens. But it was very clear when you start looking at that Supreme Court opinion that this same activist court could well go after other cases that were decided along similar lines, whether those are the marriage cases banning or forbidding the banning of interracial marriage, or the marriage equality case, or access to contraception. I mean, there's a whole line of cases that were decided on similar constitutional and legal grounds as Roe versus Wade that were in jeopardy. And people were scared that after fighting for decades to be able to protect their families through marriage, that this could go away in the future. So when the Respect for Marriage Act is finally signed into law, people will be able to rest easier knowing that they can still protect their families.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin joining us, Senator. Thank you. Congratulations. Many of us have gay family members and friends, and we certainly appreciate that. And it is a shame that we have to go through this seemingly again. There were some exceptions, to my understanding, to allow for religious concerns. Senator, what exactly did that look like? How did that change the bill, and how did the Republicans eventually come along as you shepherded this bill?
Yeah, so we originally introduced the bill earlier in the year, but as it appeared that we had a real good chance of passing it with a filibuster-proof margin in the United States Senate, I started having conversations with a number of Republicans who I thought, for the very same reasons you celebrate it, they have family and friends and staff members who are in same-sex relationships and marriages, and they want to see them flourish and want to see those rights continue. But I was talking to people, and there were a number of folks who raised concerns. In many cases, those concerns weren't necessarily threats. So, for example, there was a request to create clarity that polygamous marriages were not going to become legal. And, if we can clarify that, we're happy to clarify that. In addition, I think it was really important to say that the Respect for Marriage Act really maintains the status quo with regard to laws affecting religious liberties. It changes them in no way. And if putting clarity in the bill so that perhaps a Republican member who is getting a lot of heat from home from certain folks, can just point to the bill and say, I worked with the sponsors to get this changed so we could clarify that issue. And that gets their vote. That's really important. And I will say that because of our efforts, extensive efforts, really careful efforts, we ended up winning the endorsement of some major religious organizations that I think not so many years ago, you couldn't imagine that the Mormon Church, for example, would endorse the Respect for Marriage Act, or the Orthodox Jews, or the evangelicals, one of the groups of evangelicals. But indeed, that ended up happening, as well as obviously the civil rights organizations. So it was a lot of hard work, but we really did reach clarity so that people, enough Republicans, could become comfortable to move forward with this measure.
Our fine guest, U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin. Tammy, Mike Gallagher from Republican from right here in the great state of Wisconsin, Green Bay area. He effectively changed his vote from summer until now. He evolved on this issue, and he expressed the specific clauses regarding polygamy and religious freedoms as the reason why. Brian Stile joined him, one other Republican from Wisconsin, but your colleague Ron Johnson voted against, as did every other Republican congressional member from the state of Wisconsin. Does that mean Republicans have no respect for marriage? How do you take this, Tammy?
Well, here's where I begin. Public opinion has changed dramatically in recent decades. I mean, the vote that we got was unimaginable even a decade ago, before the Supreme Court decided the Obergefell case in 2015, declaring marriage equality the law of the land. Some of my Republican colleagues have been impacted by those in their lives, and those among their constituents who are in marriages worried about whether the Supreme Court might overturn marriage equality at some point, and wanted to get to yes. At the same time, they wanted to be able to tell constituents of faith communities in their states that they had safeguarded religious liberties in the process. Other colleagues of mine didn't want to get to yes. And so, I think we offered a number of opportunities for others to offer amendments. But in the end, they didn't come forward and offer language to address their concerns. And so I can't speak for them, but I do know that I was pleased that enough of my Republican colleagues wanted to get to yes on respect for marriage.
Senator, not to rest on your laurels, still doing more work. The Reproductive Health Travel Fund Act. We talked about Roe v. Wade as kind of the impetus for this, and the court's reaction and their comments on how perhaps some of these other cases could be looked at. What are you attempting to solve? What's your point? What are you trying to do here with this Reproductive Health Travel Fund Act?
Well, let's take Wisconsin as the perfect example of this. When Roe versus Wade was struck down, Wisconsin has a law still on the books. It was passed in 1849. Yes, everyone heard me correctly. 1849, 1 year after Wisconsin became a state. It's a criminal abortion ban. And the only exception is for the life of the mother. I've been hearing such heartbreaking stories about what that has meant for reproductive health care access and abortion care access for women in Wisconsin. I've heard of at least, I've heard several cases where a woman had to bleed excessively, or her fever had to go to perilous levels before she could get care in the state of Wisconsin, because her life was in danger. And we also know that we are surrounded by states that have different laws. They don't have laws that were passed in 1849. And in fact, abortion care is available in Illinois, in Minnesota, and other states in the area. The travel fund is a way to help women in Wisconsin who have become second-class citizens, like half of America has, have access as they did before, and make it not so expensive or cumbersome that they cannot access comprehensive reproductive health care. And that means a travel fund, and it means allowing grants to organizations that try to facilitate access.
Senator, codification of Roe v. Wade seems unlikely under the current makeup of the U.S. Senate. As a voter in Wisconsin, I got a 20-something daughter. She would like to return here someday and have reproductive rights. Is it the state Supreme Court? Is that the remedy for Wisconsin women, for Wisconsin voters, as you would see it, Senator?
It's a key piece moving forward. And I want to just say, I think about how long the opponents of Roe versus Wade plotted to get to this point where after nearly 50 years it would be overturned. It is not going to be a straight line. It is not going to be a short-term effort to restore the women of America to equal rights and first-class citizenship. But one of the pieces, since the overturning of Roe versus Wade means that you follow the law in each state. Having a Supreme Court in Wisconsin that would scrutinize that 1849 statute and see whether it is still valid under our state constitution and federal constitution. Those are ways in which we might provide some relief in a shorter term. But this is going to be a long battle, just as the battle to secure reproductive rights were to begin with. This is going to be a long battle to restore them.
Senator, your team tells us we have a few more minutes. Excellent. More with U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin. More Devil's Advocates, the Friday edition. Stick around.
Thank you.
Good luck. We're all counting on you.
We've all felt left out. And for people who move to this country, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that.
Excellent. We're back in about 2 minutes. Thank you so much.
Great.
The Devil's Advocates.
I got a little email missive just a little bit ago. Can I share just a little?
Please.
Friend, Trump is one day away from taking the stage in Wisconsin, and we need you to help stop big tech from censoring his American first message. By taking our Trump rally poll, can we count on your prompt response? Here are your options. Yes, I stand with Trump, or no, I support censorship. Let's just say you feel a little pushed in the corner.
Check out the entire podcast library at darnwi.com.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
"Hey, you got this. Just breathe." Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Missed your favorite show live on air? It's easy to find what you enjoy wherever you listen to podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. And we're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Lows level off around 33 tonight under overcast skies, east winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Cloudy skies expected tomorrow. Chance for isolated rain showers. High temperatures reach up to 37. Cloudy skies expected again tomorrow night. Lows level off around 31. Upper 30s Sunday and Monday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 34 degrees.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but the show is kind of a big deal.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. If you miss any of this fine program, please go online to civicmedia.us. You can listen to podcasts and interviews.
Dominic, we got a fine guest. She's sticking around for us. U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin from the great state of Wisconsin. Tammy, appreciate you sticking around. I want to talk a few issues. Heard a lot about inflation in the midterms. Now, I drive up the road here, University Avenue, Madison, Wisconsin. Gas is under $3 a gallon. Gas, obviously, the cost of transportation ripples through the entire economy. New studies, economic studies I see out today say effectively we do not have a wage cost spiral, meaning that higher wages drive up costs, drive up wages, drive up costs. That is not happening at least not in the current sense. So, as I understand it, Tammy, effectively the current inflation is a result of higher profits. Inflation equals profits. Senator, do you agree with the economic assessments I'm seeing of late?
I certainly see that in certain sectors, not necessarily across the board. But I take your example of the price at the pump. It seems like big oil has had very handsome profits in the time where we've seen the price at the pump go up so much. And, there's a number of, just recently we voted to avert a rail strike. I look at what those freight rail almost monopolies, but they're not quite monopolies. I look at what they've raked in at a time when they've been cutting their workforce and working them to the bone. There are certain sectors of our economy where it just appears there's been price gouging and profiteering because they could, and that it wasn't necessitated because of the laws of supply and demand. Now, granted, let's take the price of the pump. I certainly expect when there's a big shock to the system that we're going to see a fluctuation in price. So, for example, when Russia invaded Ukraine and we were trying to get the world to stop buying Russian oil, there was a fear that it would be a significant supply shortage. I can understand why it would go up a bit, but when that evened out because we were tapping the Strategic Petroleum Reserve and we were creating more biofuels and ethanol to fill in the gap, they shouldn't have stayed that high. So I think we have to empower our Federal Trade Commission to be able to investigate price gouging. Right now, they think they lack the authority to do that. And if we're going to protect consumers and also hold these big corporations accountable, we have to have more effective oversight.
Tammy, we've seen a rapid spiking of interest rates, yet we see continued hiring in the economy. Employers don't hire unless they think they can expand profits. It seems like it's the American consumer, probably their buying power, at least through the housing market, Tammy, that are going to be squeezed the worst. I am fearful of the perhaps remedy the Fed's using here. Do you have any concerns about the raising interest rates?
I do. I think that we would certainly be better off if if the increases tapered down. But I would also say that the tools that they have to fight inflation are blunt instruments. It is not something, they have a limited number of tools at their disposal. They're trying to keep inflation in check. And we're not going to see this sort of cause and effect because, again, it's a blunt instrument.
Senator, back to the oil for just a moment. I did notice yesterday, Bloomberg reported that Exxon raised its annual buyback by about 10% to $50 billion stock buyback after it posted its highest profit in its 152-year history. Your colleague, Senator Sanders, has proposed a windfall tax for those kinds of things. Is that something that you would support? And if so, if not, whatever, how realistic is something like that in today's political environment?
Yeah, well, let me tell you my proposal, which is to stop stock buybacks. They were not available to corporations prior to the early 1980s. It was viewed as insider trading. I mean, think about it. You're the corporation, you know what's happening, and you then announce that you're going to buy back your own stock. It's obviously something that is, it's able to manipulate both the price of the stock, but also so many of the executives are compensated through stock. So I just think it's something that should be abolished. I've introduced legislation that would go back to those days where they weren't able to do it except in the narrowest of circumstances. And also, the other part of that measure allows workers to elect people to the board of directors of corporations. Maybe they would make decisions not to buy back stock, but instead make decisions that think about the workers and the communities in which they exist. And I'm not against dividends, by the way, but stock buybacks are another creature altogether. That's the direction I'd go in. But I certainly applaud any legislative action to rein in this this practice.
Senator, less serious. Any plans for the holidays? Home for the holidays, hopefully, Senator?
Well, that depends on the schedule of the Congress of the United States. I have been in this institution when we worked to Christmas Eve and then worked to New Year's Eve. It was very, very sad. It was Grinch-like. But I do hope to be home. And I also hope that we get our work done in a timely manner. And I'm very much looking forward to Christmas and New Year's and time in Wisconsin.
Do you think Kevin McCarthy will ever be Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I know he has to navigate his own minefield, but boy, I think it's probably going to happen.
Senator, in the last 60 seconds, my understanding there might be some push for legislation here before the end of the year. One of those topics, legalizing weed banking for those that are involved in the cannabis industry. What's your sense on that?
Well, it's certainly an active part of our discussions in the year-end, the SAFE Act. And, you know, it causes for those states that have legalized recreational use, it is actually unsafe to have to be in a totally cash economy. And we're seeing some unfortunate consequences of that. I think it's a possibility. I do think there's a lot of Republican opposition. And so I'm not sure that it's going to sneak in before the end of the year.
U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Thank you so much for joining us on the Devil's Advocates.
Thank you, Senator.
And back at you. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you for standing watch. Thank you for doing so much good for this country.
Do you want Wisconsin to suck? I don't. That's why you're listening to me now. I'm Hawk, owner of the Jade Monkey. Come to the Monkey and tell them you're there because the devil sent you. Then I can spend more money on ads and help Devil Radio keep Wisconsin from spiraling into post-apocalyptic Republican suckage. I mean, that's Iowa's job. Buy a round of the Jade Monkey and save Wisconsin one drink at a time.
Suck down drinks so we don't have to suck.
Okay.
It's Jackson Office Supplies going out of business sale where you get 70 to 80% off all items before the end of the year. Leave those big box store prices behind and get great gifts for teachers, students, and anyone.
Mr. McCoshen, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. My name is Evan, producer here at WTTN. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, happy to be back.
Good deal. So you've done this a few times before, I imagine.
I have.
We are back in 6 minutes. So
sounds good.
I'll put the feed in your ear and we'll get going.
Okay.
Thank you.
Columbus, W224 EG Madison. Always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. Russian President Vladimir Putin says more prisoner exchanges with the U.S. are possible after Russian arms dealer Victor Bout was swapped for basketball star Brittany Griner.
Asked whether other prisoners could be swapped, Russia's president said everything is possible, noting that compromises have been found that cleared the way for the Griner exchange. Putin added, "We aren't refusing to continue this work in the future," making his first comments about the closely watched trade. Despite negotiating for Griner's release, the most high-profile American jailed abroad, the U.S. has failed to win freedom for another American, Paul Whelan. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Meantime, Putin says Moscow could adopt what he describes as a U.S. concept of using preemptive military strikes, noting Russia has the weapons to do the job. In Washington, Senator Sinema of Arizona says she's switched her registration from Democrat to Independent. But the first-term senator also says she doesn't plan to caucus with Republicans. That'll ensure Democrats retain their narrow voting majority in the Senate. In economic news, producer prices up 7.4% in November over a year ago, slower than October, but worse than expected. That helped send stocks lower on Wall Street. For the week, the Dow lost 2.8%, the S&P 3.4%, and the Nasdaq 4%. Federal safety regulators have confirmed an exploding airbag caused the death of a driver last winter. Correspondent Jackie Quinn.
The crash was in February in Bowling Green, Kentucky. The driver was killed by an exploding Takata airbag after a crash had occurred. Honda says the 2002 Accord had been under a recall notice for the faulty Takata airbags, and that the owner had been notified dozens of times in an effort to get the airbag inflator replaced. I'm Jackie Quinn.
This is AP News.
First, we decide where we want to go. Then we need to know the best way to get there. Hi, my name's Adam Barada. I'm the owner of Advantage Gold. We're the highest rated precious metals firm in the country. We teach people how to own physical gold and silver. Now, we've won the Best of TrustLink Award 4 years in a row because we educate our clients on how to buy gold and silver the right way. We don't pay celebrity spokespeople millions of dollars. We'd rather pass that value on to you. Call 800-900-8000 and speak with one of our experts. We'll send you a free gold kit along with my latest #1 national best-selling book, The Great Devaluation. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000. Get the best information, the best process, the best service, the best value. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor. Consult with your
Hey folks, Stephanie Miller here. As an enlightened progressive, you know how important it is to do business in accordance with your politics. That's why Solidarity Realty is my favorite real estate firm in Madison. Solidarity Realty is a local independent realty company that lives their values. They provide outstanding expertise and protect your best interests while building community and promoting sustainability and diversity. Vive la resistance! Find them today at solidarityrealty.com. And don't forget, tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
You wanted information as election results rolled in, and the Civic Media network of radio stations delivered it live.
I was so impressed with your coverage, and I listened to you guys, and I got all the coverage. It was amazing.
Civic Media, the only network with news reporters and show hosts stationed across Wisconsin, sharing political insight not found anywhere else. Elections or anytime, we are here for you, your local Civic Media radio stations, and streaming on the Civic Media app.
Hey, this is Matt from Design Garden. Remember when the internet was new? Back then you had to leave your house to start a business. Companies used to pay programmers bags of cash to get online. Now, small businesses can get online with a Facebook business page, or Squarespace, or Google My Business, or WordPress. But which tools should you use? Can you afford to go down the wrong path? Design Garden uses modern tools to build your website the right way. Find us online at design.garden. Again, that's design.garden.
Hey, son, how are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it.
When your kid can't find the language, find the lyrics. Start a conversation at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ed Council and Pivotal Ventures.
For Civic Media, I'm Terry Bell with this news. While Red Cross employees in Wisconsin consider going on strike, the Red Cross says it's made a generous offer to its workers. The humanitarian nonprofit says it's offered lump sum bonuses, annual pay raises, safety improvements, holidays, affordable health care, and paid family leave. Red Cross workers in Wisconsin are threatening to strike during the Red Cross's busiest blood drive of the year. Students at the University of Wisconsin-Platteville-Richland have delivered a petition to the UW Board of Regents asking to save in-person classes at their campus. But UW System President Jay Rothman says the decision to shut down in-person instruction in Richland Center is still necessary. In sports, Badger Volleyball beat Penn State in a 5-set tournament thriller last night. They advance to play Pitt tomorrow night. The Bucks are at Dallas tonight. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM, WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning. You are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Radio Show, the Happy Hour, the Friday edition. Want to thank our most recent guest, U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin. Something of a victory lap. If you missed her live, get the podcast at the civicmedia.us. Go under the show tab. Look under, should be greatest radio show ever, Dom, but apparently they put us under the Devil's Advocates. But we got another fine guest here in the Happy Hour. He is GOP strategist Bill McCoshen, friend of this devil. Bill, welcome back to the show. What are you celebrating? What victories? Glorious victories of
Mike, Tom, good to be back with you guys. Hey, listen, I'm tan, rested, and ready. I've been in Mexico last weekend for a family wedding, and
nice.
Yeah, a little election decompression, and now I'm ready to get back at it.
Well, again, I question, Bill, what are you celebrating? What glorious victories of the
Well, you must have missed that the Republicans gained seats in both the Assembly and the Senate. For a very brief window, the Senate Republicans had a supermajority until Alberta Darling announced she was resigning early. And in fact, she did leave her seat on December 1st. And I will say, for your Milwaukee area listeners, I think she's one of the most consequential legislators in the last 50 years, certainly in my lifetime. And I thank her for her public service. But that's created a special election in the 8th. It is a Republican seat on the current maps, but it will happen at the same time as what could be the Super Bowl of all elections, the Supreme Court in April of this year. So we'll see if Republicans can maintain or recapture that brief supermajority in the state Senate, but they also picked up 3 seats in the Assembly. So Tony Evers got stronger. He won by more. He beat Scott Walker by 27,000 votes. He beat Michaels by 90. The percentage was about a percent against Walker. It was a little over 3 against Michaels. So truth is, Evers got stronger, and so did the GOP legislature.
The gerrymander works. But let's talk about Alberta Darling's seat for just a minute. She was the Joint Finance Committee co-chair.
Yep.
And that is a very powerful. She helped cast the budget. Do you think the fact that Republicans were threatening to effectively start impeaching people using the power of that 2/3 majority, Bill, do you think there was any strategic reason why Darling would get out early on December 1st? I mean, she takes away that impeachment tool from the Republicans.
I think her husband passed away 3 years ago. I think she was contemplating leaving the legislature early. I'll be honest, Mike and Dom, I didn't think she'd retire now. I thought she'd wait till next summer. But I think she saw an opportunity to walk away from it now and create the special election again, which will coincide with the Supreme Court election. And I don't think it was anything to do with, she thought the GOP majority had gotten too powerful, but I haven't had a chance to talk to her since she left the legislature, so I can't say for sure.
Bill, I live in the Senate district, the 8th district, and I'm less impressed with her public service perhaps than you. A couple of things. As a constituent and a super cool radio host, I stopped years ago asking her to come on because I push back on things. And when I did get the chance to talk to her a few times at with politics events and those kinds of things, I walked away thinking I couldn't believe she had the position that she did. It wasn't clear she understood how accounting works. But that aside, we have a huge surplus right now in the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And I remember Scott Walker claiming he solved the $3.6 billion budget deficit. Yeah. And I looked back at the CAFR reports and I looked at all the numbers and I never saw anywhere bill a $3.6 billion budget deficit. In fact, we're required by law to not have a deficit, to have a cash surplus at the end of every fiscal budget. So, number one, did Scott Walker solve a $3.6 billion budget deficit? And number two, how do you think this surplus that we have right now is going to be allocated?
Let's do the easier one first. That's the second part of the question. I think the governor and Senate Majority Leader Devin LeMahieu and Speaker Robin Vos have said the right things since the election. I think they both realized that neither got weaker, both got stronger, and they're talking about potentially working together. And I would say, Dom, I think there is a chance that we could have a grand bargain on the budget in a few categories. Number one would be education. The governor wants $2.5 billion of additional spending for K-12. I don't think he'll get that number, but that is an area where Republicans are probably willing to work with him if there's some pay equity for charter and choice schools. Number two, shared revenue. That has to get fixed. Communities across the state are getting hammered. They can't meet the needs of the local citizens. They have revenue caps in place. I think you'll see some agreement on that. Third is income tax cuts. It's a $6.6 billion surplus. I think that the governor campaigned on cutting taxes more for middle income people. I think that's one of the areas that they can reach some compromise on as well. Transportation, they've already found compromise over the course of the past two budgets. And then hopefully on the university. So I think there are areas where we could see the legislative Republicans and the Democratic governor working together. You remember, the governor introduced the last two budgets. The legislature largely ignored those. They passed their own, but ultimately Governor Evers signed those. The first budget had, I think, 160 vetoes in it, partial vetoes. The second one had a lot less, and it actually had some Democratic votes. So on the second part of your question, I'm hopeful. I'm going to be an optimist. It's the holiday season. I'm hopeful that they can find some agreement that benefits the state of Wisconsin on at least in those five categories. On your first question, there was a structural deficit. So listen, legislative math is different than regular math.
Yeah, come on, man. Of course there. A lot of people ask for stuff they're not gonna get, Bill. See, you and I know that, but that did not stop Walker from saying it. And that's the kind of stuff that bothers me, man. It really does. I don't care if it's a Dem or not. I understand the numbers. I went and looked at it. I get it, to go up on stage and say these things, it's not just an exaggeration to me. It's an outright lie, because we have official financial documents that are required in the state of Wisconsin, and those numbers do not show. But thank you for being honest.
That would be like Joe Biden saying there's 0% inflation, right?
Yes, correct.
Maybe there was 0% month over month, but the inflation was still 8%, period.
Gentlemen, let's talk about something important. The Wisconsin Supreme Court race, the fight for the soul of this great state. Bill, this is going to be quite a humdinger coming up in February. I believe the primary, the 21st of February, and then the general in April.
Yeah.
And this is for the balance of the court. Rogan Sack is the 4 in the 4-3 conservative majority.
Right.
She's stepping back. No incumbent. Lately, the Democrats, or at least the Democratic supported justices, they've been on a roll. Karofsky, Dalit, Bill, Doro, and Kelly are already taking swings at each other. Dom likes to say your party, the grand old party, the Republican Party, is in disarray. How do you answer his allegations?
Well, I don't think he's wrong. Listen, we had a pretty bruising primary for governor between Clayfish and Michaels. Michaels came out on top on that. He ended up with 58%, or he beat her by 30,000 votes. He beat her by 5 points, but 58% of the electorate voted against Clayfish. So when people say, well, she would have been a stronger candidate in the general, I don't personally buy that. But it did get messy at the end. There's no question about that. And I'm hopeful that the Supreme Court race doesn't get as messy. We'll see if both of them file. And I'm not trying to break news tonight here, but They don't have to file their nomination papers till the first Tuesday. You got major conservative talk radio guys like Mark Belling asking Justice Dan Kelly to get out, to step aside, to let Jennifer Doro, the Waukesha County Circuit Judge and Chief Judge of the 3rd District, to have a clear field. I don't know that that's going to happen. I'd be surprised if that happened, but I think it's really important that the two conservatives don't destroy each other so that the two progressives get through the primary and there's no choice in April. My belief is this will be the Super Bowl of all elections for a spring election. It'll be at least as big as a presidential primary, maybe bigger, because of what's at stake. You said it, Crute. I mean, a progressive Supreme Court could review school choice. They could review the district maps. Let's start with redistricting. They could review Act 10. They could review a lot of what Walker and his administration viewed as significant accomplishments and roll those back potentially. So this is a highly significant race. I think it will be the most expensive Supreme Court race in history in the state of Wisconsin. And, you know, Democrats have done pretty well on statewide races, with one exception, Ron Johnson, since 2016. I mean, Democrats have, I think the record is, I think the Republicans are 2-13 out of 15 statewide races. So it's, Democrats have done really well, particularly on the organizational side. And truthfully, they've kicked our butt in money. You know, Georgia just happened on Tuesday night, and Raphael Warnock outspent Herschel Walker more than 2-1, $60 million to $26 million. If you look at the spending in the governor's race, Evers massively outspent Tim Michels. The spending in the U.S. Senate race was about equal at the end of the day, but Barnes, you know, spent more than $100 million, him and his allies. So money has not been an object for Democrats the way it may have used to have been. And so, you know, look for ads to start in the U.S. Senate race, maybe as soon as the middle of January.
Bill McCoshen, Dan Kelly ain't getting out. He's like the guy in the movie. He's got nowhere else to go. He's not dropping out of this race, and the Uline money that supports him is going to brutalize Doro, just like they brutalized Mandela Barnes in the general election, man. This is going to be an ugly race. That's why we need a smart guy like you, Bill McCoshen, friend of the Devil's Advocates, GOP strategist. Stick around, Bill. We'll talk about Trump and his rollout. It's gone so well. That's what
If I could be you.
And you could be me?
For just 1 hour.
If you could find a way.
To get inside.
Each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
The Devil's Advocates.
The plaintiff, Donald J. Trump, hereby serves his suit against the defendants, Hillary Clinton and her cohorts, orchestrated an unthinkable plot, one that shocks the conscience and is an affront to the nation's democracy.
This week on Fox.
You know what I mean? Like you're throwing a few too many adverbs and adjectives in this sentence.
One man, one mission Donald Trump gets made fun of. This is Watergate 2.
Making radio great again.
Veterans, whatever you're going through, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach. Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
You are listening to your local Civic Media radio station on air. Thank you. Did you know we are always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app too? And if you miss a show or game, find it wherever you get your podcasts or on our website, civicmedia.us.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Lows level off around 33 tonight. Under overcast skies, east winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Cloudy skies expected tomorrow. Chance for isolated rain showers. High temperatures reach up to 37. Cloudy skies expected again tomorrow night. Lows level off around 31. Upper 30s Sunday and Monday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 33 degrees.
Malarkey. The devil's advocates invented malarkey.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Happy Friday to us all. Bill McCoshen, the GOP strategist, sticking around the Devil's Advocates. Bill, thank you for doing so. I know we're going to get to some of the Trump stuff, but I have like a philosophical question for you. Being the GOPer that you are, I've looked at this and I've heard Republicans say it. The GOP is dead. I mean, I went to the Michaels campaign rally in Waukesha, and one of the speakers said it's dead. And this is now mega. So my question to you is, do you agree with that sentiment? And what's the philosophy of conservatism right now, and who's the standard bearer of it?
Well, Ron Johnson's the titular head of the party here, for sure. I mean, he won re-election. He wasn't expected to. He was the number one target in the country at the beginning of the year. Then he dropped to 2 or 3, but you know, he got $100 million dropped on his head, and he survived it. So he's the highest ranking officer or elected official in the state of Wisconsin. So he's in control of our party. I think one of his key allies, Brian Schimming, will become the chairman of the party tomorrow. The executive committee of the Republican Party of Wisconsin is meeting today and tomorrow in Stevens Point. I think Schimming will ultimately get that position. Brian and I worked together at the Republican Party of Wisconsin back in 1988. Brian was the political director. I was a field director. They had me living in the Bay Motel on 9th and Military in Green Bay, Wisconsin. My candidates were 0 for 13 in 1988. That Green Bay was all Democratic, was all blue. I didn't win a single race. This was a motel, not a hotel. It still exists. The Bay Family Restaurant has some of the best food in Green Bay if you ever are up that way on 9th and Military. My mom called me there one time, Dom, and she said, you had to call the front desk and then have it routed to your room. This is before cell phone. She said, Billy, you got to stop living like a gypsy. It's time to go to law school. And I said, no, Mom, this is all going to work out. And, you know, here I am 30 some years later, and I did okay, I think. So I think Schimming will get that job. I think Johnson's the head of the party. As it relates to MAGA, it has changed over time, right? A lot of these folks started out in the Tea Party back in 2010. And there were a lot of establishment Republicans who tried to push those folks out. And those folks just got angrier and angrier and angrier. And Donald Trump connected with them in 2016. It's not going away. I think he's got a hardcore base within the Republican Party. I don't frankly think it's enough for him to be the nominee next time. We can chat about that either on this show or a future one. But the party's got some soul searching to do. When you lose elections, listen, we underperform nationally. There's no question about that. I mean, this was supposed to be a red wave. We picked up one governorship in the state of Nevada. That's it. No U.S. Senate seats. In fact, we lost one in Pennsylvania, although it was an open seat. So, Republicans barely won the House of Representatives. It was, Joe Biden can come away saying he had one of the best midterms since George W. Bush, and frankly, going back to John F. Kennedy for Democrats. So, Republicans are going to have to figure it out both on the state level, and because we got crushed in the gubernatorial race, and we're going to have to figure it out on the national level, and that'll get sorted out at the end of January. And I think there'll be multiple candidates for RNC chair.
Bill, here's the problem. It's not the chair of the party, although I'd vote for Michael Lindell if I were you, Bill. The problem is that Donald Trump is the head of the national party. Until someone kills the king, he's the king. And there is enough support in that party. If you've got 15, 10, even 5 Republicans running in this race, Donald Trump's going to end up being your nominee, Bill, because he's going to bloody knuckle his way through the field. And if nothing else, the press likes a good fight. When he starts going after DeSantis, it's going to get real ugly. And I don't know if DeSantis won't wilt. The strange thing, as far as I'm concerned, most of them are in it to win it. He's in it to try and stay out of jail, Bill. Is that a good enough reason to be the head of a party?
I don't think the tactics he used in 2016 will work this time.
Why not?
The personal insults, the destruction of his opponents. Maybe he tries that. He clearly has, chosen a name for DeSantis. And we don't know if DeSantis will hold up under the bright lights of a national campaign. Don't forget, Scott Walker, and this isn't meant as a criticism, Scott Walker was first or second in the 2016 primary. The three guys standing in the middle of this stage in Cleveland at the very first debate were Donald Trump, Jeb Bush, and Scott Walker. Scott Walker was the first one of those three out of the race. He was out 35 days after that, right? So national campaigns, as you guys know well, are very different than state campaigns, even a state as big as Florida. So, we'll see if DeSantis can hold up to those bright lights. I think he can. The party, I think the reason he's growing in popularity is a lot of people in the base think he can. But again, until you get punched, is this Mike Tyson's line? Until you get punched in the face, you don't know how they'll react.
Right. Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the nose. Bill McCoshen.
Yeah.
All right, but you talked about Trump's 2016 strategy in the last 2 minutes. Well, we know what his 2020 strategy, at least I'm going to lay it out for you in 30 seconds. I'll let you respond. He coordinated an attack on the U.S. Capitol. He's now being investigated in Fulton County, Georgia, for election interference. His companies are now fraudulent entities, as according to the state of New York. He's got a $250 million civil lawsuit from also the AG, Tish James. He's got multiple grand juries that his close people to him are testifying on right now. And he didn't bring didn't call the cavalry for 3 hours when the Capitol was getting attacked. Bill, would you vote for Donald Trump if he makes it through the primary?
We'll see. I don't think he's going to make it through the primary.
Would you vote for Donald Trump if he made it through the primary, Bill?
If Joe Biden is a candidate, probably yes.
So you think the insurrection, no insurrection? Do you think it's all made up by the media?
So here's what we know. I mean, Donald Trump is the most highly investigated person ever. He's been impeached twice. They've thrown the kitchen sink at him. He's still standing. I don't know that any of that's going to stick. I think where he falls short, Dom, is looking backwards. Campaigns are about the future. If he's running on 2020 being a stolen election, he could be the first guy out of the primary process on the Republican side. I don't think any Republicans, well, a very small percentage are still hung up on 2020. They're looking forward, not backwards.
Terminate the Constitution.
Come on, man. That's what he said.
Well, it's not quite what he said, but it was
You
close.
have to terminate the chapter within the Constitution, including those in the Constitution. Yeah, that's pretty much what he said.
Nobody
man.
buys that. No. Yeah, that's not a winning message. Let's put it that way.
More Devil's Advocates. We'll be right back.
Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
Thanks, man.
You can handle.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming around, dude.
Yeah, you bet. See you guys.
Take care.
I'd be happy to, Brian. At an open house?
No, I just called the sign and had the agent show it to me. I didn't want to bug you.
Right. How many times have you heard me say don't call the sign?
All of them.
You called the agent working for the seller, and once you see the property with that agent, I'm no longer free to write an offer on it.
So
you need to hire us from the beginning, help you find the right home, negotiate on your behalf, and protect your interests all the way through the process, and it shouldn't cost you a dime.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. Find them at solidarityrealty.com.
Salvatore's Tomato Pies invites you to the 3rd annual Italian-American Holiday Brunch in Sun Prairie. Sunday, December 18th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Enjoy a deliciously exciting 3-course meal and Sal's own specialty cocktails. Bring the little ones, too, for a kid's brunch option. It's fun for the whole family. The 3rd annual Italian-American Holiday Brunch at Salvatore's Tomato Pies in Sun Prairie. Sunday, December 18th, 10 a.m. to 2. Reserve your table now at Salvatore's Tomato.
I'm Ben Thomas with an AP News Minute. Senator Kirsten Sinema of Arizona has switched her registration from Democrat to Independent. In a videotaped message to constituents, she says the move is
a reflection of who I've always been. And it's a reflection of who Arizona is. It's a reflection of the folks that I talked to at the grocery store.
The first-term senator also says she doesn't plan to caucus with Republicans. That'll ensure Democrats retain their narrow voting majority in the Senate. Arsaga Magani now with a new economic number.
Wholesale price increases slowed in November for a 5th straight month. On a year-over-year basis, they were up 7.4%.
The report helped send stocks lower on Wall Street. For the week, the Dow lost 2.8%, the S&P 3.4%, and the Nasdaq 4%. And federal data indicates an oil spill in Kansas this week is the largest for an onshore crude pipeline in more than 9 years, the biggest ever for the Keystone Pipeline. I'm Ben Thomas.
First, we decide where we want to go. Then we need to know the best way to get there. Hi, my name's Adam Barada. I'm the owner of Advantage Gold. We're the highest rated precious metals firm in the country. We teach people how to own physical gold and silver. Now, we've won the Best of TrustLink Award 4 years in a row because we educate our clients on how to buy gold and silver the right way. We don't pay celebrity spokespeople millions of dollars. We'd rather pass that value on to you. Call 800-900-8000 and speak with one of our experts. We'll send you a free gold kit along with my latest #1 national best-selling book, The Great Devaluation. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000. Get the best information, the best process, the best service, the best value. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor. Consult with.
This is Pat Kreitlow from Up North News Radio. We talked to political analyst Joe Zepecki about his theory as to why Republicans don't do better in elections with a level playing field. The answer? Stop focusing on grievances and start working on getting things done.
You and I know the age-old saying, nothing was ever learned from the second kick from a mule. I'm not sure Republicans, now that they've gotten kicked by the mule, 3-4 election years in a row, have yet learned the lesson, which is that the voters, we the people, are not interested in this MAGA extremism, election denialism way of doing things, where all the Republican Party stands for is trying to feed the outrage meter. People don't want that. They want solutions. They want leadership that understands what's going on in their life and does something to address it.
Join us for real information and good conversation on Up North News Radio, weekdays 6 to 8 a.m.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Friday Grievance Edition. The happier happy hour, rolling through it. The guest on this big show, that's not the grievance. Clearly, thank you, GOP strategist Bill McCoshen. I'm putting him in the cool guy column. In future appearances, I'm going to try to coordinate an appearance often with Scott Ross when Bill comes around. Scott's a good guy. He can vouch for Bill. My vouching for Bill should be enough for your.
Oh, man, Crudy, I have known you for 30 years, and I got to tell you, you have a terrible taste in friends.
Clearly.
No, man, I appreciate it. And listen, a guy like Bill, it seems level. He can accept, the reality in front of him and articulate his positions, and I appreciate that. But really, dude, you'd vote for him again? You'd vote for him again, and that kind of
the nominee. Yeah. If Joe Biden was the opponent, what's he supposed to say? He's on a mass medium. He's on the public radio airwaves.
What do you mean? Oh. No, absolutely. That guy, listen, if Bernie Sanders came out and said he wanted to shred the Constitution, got a bunch of thugs to attack come on. No, yes. At some point you put, the welfare of the country, the upholding the Constitution, and your friends and neighbors in front of your political whatever it is you think you're going to get out of the fascist that you would accept. You would willingly accept the fascist. Because why? Because Joe Biden passed the Anti-Inflation Act that didn't do enough as far as you're concerned. You know what I mean? A smart, intelligent guy like that, dialed in, guy like that. Oh, maybe it's the right thing to say. Would he do it in the booth? I don't know. I don't know how anybody could.
Dominic, you act all holier than thou. If you didn't have soccer buddies and Trumpster buddies, you'd have no friends at all. Than this guy, perhaps.
And you have a terrible taste in friends.
I do. I really, really do. 844-96. That's not true. I have excellent taste in friends. I just, occasionally am myopic. I have blind spots. Kristen Sinema, broadcast co-host. 844-967-2789. Air the grievances here. Be like Jack from Merrimack. Jack, you're next, man. Bring it.
Hey, Jack.
Yeah, you guys are like my wife who has terrible taste in men.
I've heard that, Jack. That's the rumor around town.
Yeah, I know. It's all over. Anyway, yeah. Kirsten Sinema. Oh, my, what a piece of work. Frankly, I'm surprised, and I think there's only one reason why they haven't done it. I'm surprised that Sinema and Manchin both haven't just completely switched parties. And I think the only reason why Sinema didn't and why Manchin isn't also is that they're concerned with losing their personal power. That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
Sinema is pretty certain, given her, shall we say, credentials from her time in the Senate, to at least have had a significant primary challenger when she tries to run again in 2 years. And frankly, I hope she gets squashed anyway. But,
well, she could split the electorate, Jack. I mean, I've already heard Whitey Talk Radio speculating that if she makes a third-party run, let's say it's the congressman, Rule Guevara, I believe.
Ruben Gallego.
Is that who is threatening to run?
That's who's been texting me and emailing me since this happened today.
So Ruben's running, apparently. But, Jack, let's say he's the Democratic nominee, right? And let's say that the Republicans put up a nominee, and let's say Kristen Sinema tries to split the difference. She does the Ross Perot. Well, you can't guarantee that Gallego is going to end up like Bill Clinton. It could get handed off to W or HW, as the case may be. You know what I mean? It could split the math. It could break the math of the state. I mean, she's already broken the trust. I mean, Tammy Baldwin, Senator Baldwin on our show, far too generous in the fact she should appear and slum it with us, but, you know, far too generous in her assessment of Sinema. But Sinema,
I mean, I don't listen. I mean, I don't think Senator Baldwin was being, you know, I think she was being honest. I mean, Jack, I mean, she worked with her on this bill. I mean, there's things that she can work with. I mean, ultimately, I think when it comes down to it, if nothing changes, then why make the announcement if not for self-aggrandizement? You know what I'm saying, Jack? She's going to vote how she's going to vote anyway. And she's going to, and I think ultimately what it comes down to, Jack, is an honest assessment of know who you're voting for. I mean, literally. I mean, don't just take what they tell you. If you want someone independent, then certainly she is your person. And that's fine. And I get it, Jack. I mean, I consider myself independent, more independent than I have been in the past than I am right now. I've come along in some of my thought process based on how I've seen Republicans and fascists react to, you know, current political circumstances, Jack. But that's me, man. She actually is in there casting the vote. If anything, she's being consistent. Whether or not if the math doesn't change, if the committees still hold and everything still is going to be the same, well, this is just a big PR for her, man. And that's okay. If she needs to stroke her ego, so what? Let's get the judicial nominees and let's get the committee heads gavels to the Dems.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jack.
Especially given the chaos that's going to exist in the House. I mean, that's just going to be nuts. So, with what's this? Jordan is up for Judiciary Committee. That guy should be in jail, not acting in the Judiciary Committee. I mean,
Jim Jordan, GYM Jordan. Yes, it's going to be very interesting and a reflection of certainly on the United States of America. I mean, it is representative government. We get the government we deserve, Jack, whether we like it or not.
Thank you for the call, Jack. Thank you for listening. As always, be like Jack. Call us 844-967-2789. We'll air your Friday grievances. I'm going to lay Dick from the garages out for him early. The gas prices, they are dropping precipitously.
I gassed up today less than 280, 279.9, because that 1/10 of a cent really helped me out. Less than 280 today.
I think it's under 270 on University Avenue at the Quick Trip. But here's a headline, an opinion piece I'd like to share with you in the audience. Republicans it's okay to not thank Joe Biden for bringing down gas prices, but they're going down. Paul Waldman says, after reaching $5 a gallon in June, gas prices have fallen precipitously. Hey, that's my word. The national average for regular gas is now around $3.30, and in 13 states, the average is below $3. I would say Wisconsin in that column, where the national average could be by Christmas. If your car has a 15-gallon tank, I hate doing math on the radio, Don, but that means you'll soon be paying just $45 to fill up instead of the $75 it cost you this summer. What a relief. This is a policy triumph for the President Biden, a direct result of his actions. Even his Republican opponents are lining up to praise him for heeding their earlier criticisms now that he's brought down prices at the pump and put more money in the pockets of hardworking Americans. Everything in the prior paragraph is an invention, of course. Biden isn't responsible for bringing down gas prices any more than he was responsible for them rising in the first place. And Republicans are most decidedly not praising him for that or anything else. But when prices were high, they couldn't stop repeating that it was all Biden's fault. After the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the rising demand from a reinvigorated economy originally drove up gas prices, House Minority Leader, never going to be Speaker Kevin McCarthy, blamed the out-of-touch policies of Democrats. This is intentional, said Republican National Committee Chair Ronna McDaniel. I prefer Mike Lindell, alleging that gas prices were rising because Biden had a secret plan to deplete our energy independence.
What? Crudy, other Republicans agreed. Some began calling it Biden's gas hike. Conservatives even sold stickers with a picture of Biden pointing his fingers and the words, "I did it," to irate gas buyers to a fix on fuel pumps. That was all predicated on two ideas. First, that Biden wanted gas prices to go up, which is plainly idiotic. Wouldn't a sinister villain like him at least want prices to remain low to prop up his approval ratings? And second, that Biden had it in his power to determine those prices. Throughout the past couple of years, as in previous times when gas prices rose, fact checkers have dutifully explained that Republican claims were bogus. In general, the president can do very little to send gas prices up and even less to bring them down. The reason they're falling now has to do with fears of a recession along with reduced demand in China. Unfortunately, Biden probably contributed to the belief that he could control gas prices by making a big show of trying to do something about them. He called for investigations of gas companies into whether illegal conduct is costing families at the pump and released oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. But even people who generally support him, like me, point out that while a number of presidents have taken that step in the past, releasing oil from the Strategic Reserve can have at most a tiny and temporary effect on the overall supply. And in the news media, those occasional fact checks were overwhelmed by a torrent of reports along the lines of rising prices pose political challenge for Biden. Those were full of quotes from Republicans saying it was Biden's fault and were driven by the assumption that attributing responsibility for gas prices to the president is routine and reasonable, even if a line in the 12th paragraph might explain that he had nothing to do with them. The long-term solution of the problem of gas prices is familiar to every American who owns an electric car or plug-in hybrid. Move away from fossil fuels. If you drove a Hyundai Ioniq or a Tesla, which conservatives apparently now think is cool because Elon Musk became a right-wing troll, you don't care what the price of gas is. And while electric cars still make up a small portion of the market, sales have grown steadily and will almost certainly continue to increase, especially because the Inflation Reduction Act contained provisions meant to promote electric vehicle manufacture and sales. Nevertheless, most cars on the road will be powered by gas for some time to come, which means we'll continue to be concerned about gas prices. So, here's what we should do now. While everyone's a little calmer about the issue, let's promise ourselves and each other that the next time prices rise, and inevitably they will, we'll try not to be so dumb about this subject. Paul Waldman, lighting mofos up at the Washington Post. Thank you, Paul. I concur. I mean, this conversation comes up. We've had it over and over. And I've literally gassed up at those gas stations where you see the little Biden sticker. And they go, are you so proud of your ignorance? I mean, literally. Are you happy with your ignorance? Yes, we are. And it's if it's about owning the libs and just being d-bags, well, congratulations, you won the d-bag part. But you're not going to own anybody because you have a false comprehension, an incorrect comprehension of how the world works.
You're so coarse on Fridays.
I've been holding back all week, Crudy.
Dominic, who's probably downright profane at this moment? Rudy Giuliani. You see they're taking back his honorary degree?
No.
Syracuse University rescinding his honorary degree. That's a bad day, right? And you should see the picture they used to accompany the article. Rudy looking quite dour, let's just say. Syracuse University is looking to rescind the honorary degree it bestowed on former Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani all the way back in 1989. Dude, that was 30-something years ago, was it not? I'm not great with math on the radio, but that's a
over
long
30.
In an interview with the Business Insider, Syracuse University Student Association President David Bruin revealed the university's board of directors this past summer got the wheels rolling on clawing back Giuliani's honorary degree, which would mark the first time in school history that such a degree had been rescinded. It's unprecedented, Dom. Dom, you may know that Giuliani's been the target of a few disbarment movements lately. Come back with us. Devil's Advocates. We'll try talking better more on the other side with your phone calls. 844-96-PARTY, because it's a party up in here.
Lewis bet me that we couldn't both get rich and put you on the poorhouse at the same time. He didn't think we could do it. I won.
Get your work straight, Jack.
Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
There seemingly is a willingness amongst Republicans to subvert future elections. How troubling is that to you, man?
Yeah, I think it's more than troubling. It's the core issue in the upcoming elections in 22 and 24, and it's going to be seen that way by historians. These people are out to destroy the democracy. To me, that is the linchpin issue in the upcoming election.
To what end, Matt?
Do we destroy our democracy or not?
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
You're not too cool for me. And in return, I reciprocate that sentiment. I'll never be too cool for you. I was a man with a plan, but now I'm a dad with a decree, and you can't take that from me. Please let it be noted that I told my job they can dock my pay. Right now, it's just too important to take you to school every day. I want to be legendary for you. I want you to puff out your chest when you go to school, the same way I do. I walk taller because of you, because I found everything to live for.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
It's easy to listen to your favorite local radio station anytime. Download the Civic Media app from the Apple or Google Play Store, then listen live or whenever you want from anywhere for free.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Lows dip down to about 33 tonight, under cloudy skies, easterly winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Cloudy skies expected again tomorrow. Chance for isolated showers. Highs level off around 37. Lows dip down to about 31 tomorrow night. Overcast skies. Upper 30s Sunday and Monday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 33 degrees.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about, The Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day, of the week. If you got something to say, hit us up right now. 844-967-2789.
I got a couple of quick grievances. One, Black Betty does not get played nearly enough now that Ram Jam's retiring from the assembly and failed gubernatorial candidate
Tim Rampton, the guy that called the cops on us, eventually got and of course we got our charges dismissed, but that was the guy who called the cops on us, tried to get us arrested when they were putting up their tree without a permit for the third time.
Ram Jam. You know, there is a Capitol Christmas tree. I feel like we should go and help decorate it.
You still have some of those, Crudy? You put such hard work into those decorations, man.
Here's another one. I feel quite confident that Darcy Haber was listening at some point during the day because she sent me a text message or two. And I promised her I'd be better about describing the location the greatest radio show ever originates from. Why, it's the Solidarity Realty Studios, brought to us by our friends at Solidarity Realty. And Darcy's the broker there, so she likes it when I say that. So there you go, Darcy. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Darcy. We appreciate it. I hope to see Darcy soon. She's awesome. Let's get to some of our callers at 844-967-2789. Our pal Tom from the leftist coast. Welcome, Tom. What do you got for us?
Tom?
Hey, guys. First off, we the people are the government. You must never forget that. I wanted to ask a question.
Can I ask? Can I ask first?
Yeah.
Have you seen my daughter?
Yeah.
Because she's not returning our phone calls right now. She doesn't want to commit to a specific day to come home for Christmas. So now she doesn't return her mom or I's phone calls. Could you tap her out, call her out publicly?
I'll definitely call her up to ask her if she's coming back to Wisconsin.
That'd be great. Also, Tom, while you're at it, could you loan me $20, man? I'm heading over to the coin. They only take cash.
I'll make sure your tab is full.
All right. Thanks, man.
Money on your tab.
Venmo him tuition.
So, Tucker Carlson, I don't watch Fox or anything like that, so I wouldn't really know that. I saw something on Twitter where he said the diesel was going to run out by November 24th or something like that. Why does no one hold his feet to the fire when they tell these, these stories, and then no one follows up with, didn't you say that the diesel was going to be gone by November 24th?
Right. Yeah.
I don't understand that he can say that to his audience and do a whole segment on it and actually be serious.
I'm just asking questions here.
Tom, I'm asking a question. You're talking about the same guy that talked about sun tanning their testicles? That's the guy you're talking about, right? That guy?
He's the guy.
Yeah, you're wondering why people are what, not taking him or not calling him on the things that he said were untrue or not logical?
Well, he was also depositioned in the $1.6 billion defamation suit against Foxy News, right? Dominion Software. He was one of the ones propagating that scandal as well, was he not, Tom?
Tom, let me ask you real quick, and I appreciate your point, and I know he has a bigger platform perhaps than Alex Jones, but he's very Alex Jonesy, right? I mean, if you're just going to get up and say whatever, why should people take Tucker Carlson any more seriously than they take Alex Jones?
Well, I guess my point was that he said that this was a certain date. That's like the person that says the world's going to come to an end on this certain date. Okay, so it didn't happen. So what I'm saying is that, it's not like making up something. It's like saying, no, this is going to happen on this date. Joe Biden, there's not going to be any more diesel fuel, whatever. And nobody says you lied about that. So what else did you lie about? Trust but verify. And once you verify that didn't happen, that you could actually not believe the guy on
credibility does not matter, Tom.
I guess not in that world.
I went into I went
Kelsey for you.
Yeah, look up Kels and then listen to my quick story. I went into my doctor and he gave me 6 months to live. And I said, doctor, I don't have the money to pay you. And he said, okay, I'll give you 6 more months.
Exactly.
So anyways,
here's my big grievance still. And you guys have actually improved upon it, but is this AP News thing. They're the most disgusting top of the hour, bottom of the hour news flashes that there is, and that's all some people even listen to. And they always are doing both sides of them, and they're always doing like, okay, Joe Biden got Brittany Griner out, but didn't get this Paul guy out, and then they go on to about 5 or 2 more minutes about the Paul guy. Paul guy wasn't even involved in this whole trade thing, and Or, Target had
the Associated Press, Tom,
weren't buying.
I'm not even married to the Associated Press as a news outlet, but the reason they were selected by yours truly, I am the decision maker in this case. I chose them.
Get rid of them.
A, because, they do a barter trade. I don't have to pay for that news content. But B, the AP News is considered the most straight down the middle news of any of the news sources.
That's why I'm so bothered. Because they're not.
What, you want me to get
just listen.
MSDNC to do our nose around here, Tom?
Well, I mean, but hang on, and Tom, I appreciate your point, and I think this both sidesism thing. I mean, if you're going to be straight down the middle and make equal everything from one side to the other, then that's exactly what you're going to get, Tom. And I think to your point is, no, these are not the same things. These are different topics. These are different scenarios. And the way they presented it made it seem like, well, that the president had to choose between one or the other. And he took the national flag kneeling pot smoking basketball player over the former Marine. And that's how the Republicans or the conservatives view it. Am I right in what you're thinking, Tom?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, then they'll say something like Target had to lower their prices because people weren't buying things, but all their profits went down. I mean, it's just like I don't understand how they can be the leader in news for these shows, because they're not. I mean, they sound like it when they do their little like, really, this is world. but they're not. They are the most. Just listen to their stories. Just listen to it. I mean, good journalism is who, what, when, why, where, and how.
Yeah, Tom doesn't know that. He didn't go to journalism school.
Hey, Tom, thanks for the call, man. And to our audience, good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Dom, my son, my youngest, actually listened to the greatest radio show ever yesterday. Almost called in, he said.
Oh, nice.
Talked to him about it last night, and he said, Dom wasn't making any sense at all. And I said, that's damn near every night. Narrow it down. He said, tonight, about 5:55. So anyways, even Crudy is a Crudy fan.
Hey, you better call up. I'll let him up. 844-967-2789. But you gotta wait till Monday, man.
Well, maybe some other time. Thank you, U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin. Thank you to all our fine guests. Bill McCoshen, didn't mean to forget you, man. Stick around. Hafman Brothers going out on a Friday night. Civic Media, keep it locked. Have a great weekend. Party, Civic Media. Party, party, party.
The Tree by Crew offers elegance and sophistication.
Right to jail, right away.
Do you want Wisconsin to suck? I don't. That's why you're listening to me now. I'm Hawk, owner of Hawk's Bar and Grill. Come to Hawk's on State and tell them you're there.